Ken Rosenthal is reporting that Paul DePodesta is leaving the Cleveland Browns to be the Colorado Rockies head of baseball operations, which basically means he's going to be the de facto GM because none of those titles mean anything in baseball anymore. And listen, I understand that this might come off as mean-spirited. The reality is nothing good has really happened since Paul DePodesta has been the head of whatever the hell he's done with the Cleveland Browns. And this feels like as big of a win as you can have, because I think Paul has been more of a problem with organizational dynamics than certainly even Andrew or Kevin Stefanski.
Well, we stopped really knowing what he was doing or contributing. That's like the hard part about this conversation is that throughout the years, at one point he was credited with being the person that found Kevin Stefanski to then bring him in to then hire Stefanski. At another point, he was only involved in the NFL draft and free agency. And like in other points, he's been involved heavily in things that aren't even related to football duties.
I've heard marketing. I've heard the stadium stuff.
It's odd, because we've for the longest time have not really been able to identify what in fact he's done. And in the Ken Rosenthal report, he correctly attributes the idea that no one from the Browns media has been able to speak to DePodesta since March of 2022.
Yep.
I mean, it's been 3 years since we've even heard from the guy do any sort of press conferences or media appearances. But this is bigger than DePodesta, in my opinion, because I feel like this might be just a look into how Jimmy Haslam is structuring this whole entire ordeal. Do you feel like, Nick, that this is the idea of DePodesta left before he could get fired and took advantage of the baseball jobs that were out there, which would mean we could have a clean house situation at the end of the season involving both Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and basically everybody involved with the previous failings?
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, a week ago, I was having a conversation where somebody was like, yeah, DePodesta's got a job as long as he wants. Because that's how normalized the idea of this guy having none of the Browns' failures attributed to him. Abso-stinking-lutely, I think your read is right. I don't know why I said it that way, but absolutely right. I think your read is right. Like, this feels like a rats jumping off the ship moment. And honestly, it feels like a win for the Browns fan. Like, it does. Mm-hmm. Like, all right, listen, I don't know what Paul DePodesta did, but I know that his record is like a .350 winning percentage since he's been here. And by the way, I think he was the guy with Haslam's ear. And as it has been with Jimmy Haslam, is whoever's got his ear is the way this thing is going to go. I almost look at it as when Howie Roseman was working out of a closet in Philly.
Yeah, with Chip Kelly put him in there.
And no one was really safe. This is a guy that had ousted Tom Heckert, and he had ousted Andy Reid. He had out-survived all these guys. And Chip Kelly's biggest problem was not annexing him to, Chicago. And so, in the end, Howie Roseman came out of the... I wasn't going to say that the right way.
Yeah, that was...
Howie Roseman emerged again from the rubbles of the Chip Kelly era.
You almost did an R. Kelly song.
I did. I really did. But I do think, yes, I think this is one of the first rats jumping off the ship. And I'll tell you, it's bad in Cleveland when Paul DePodesta is part of this report. This is the way it's written. Paul DePodesta, who's going to the Colorado Rockies, who've been historically bad the last 3 years, doesn't want to be associated with the Browns' failures. You know how I know? Here's one of the pieces of the Ken Rosenthal thing.
Okay.
At least by organizational chart and responsibility, DePodesta did not make personnel decisions. He worked with ownership and football operations on various projects and was regarded as a large part of the team's planning for free agency each March and NFL draft each April. He has always had a behind-the-scenes, mostly secretive role, continue to live in La Jolla, California, and either work remotely or commute to Northeast Ohio. He's distancing himself from the Browns' success or the lack of success.
He should, considering now he's got a new job in baseball, so he's fine. But wiping away 10 years of stink. If I could do it the way that he just did it through Ken Rosenthal, I would do that 11 times out of 10.
All right, does this make you just feel like I feel better? Okay,
what's this your pound of flesh?
For now.
How we were wondering what we were going to get at the bye week. We didn't even get Andrew Berry speaking. It seems like the play calling duties being handed off from Kevin Stefanski to Tommy Rees. That was some semblance of a breadcrumb of sorts to maybe make the fan base feel happy. Was this your pound of flesh to say, okay, they're doing something, they're acknowledging some of these mistakes, and here we go?
Yes. This would be the kind of thing where right now I feel more open to the idea of football people making football decisions. which is what matters to me. Like Paul DePodesta, by the way, Paul DePodesta wasn't ever really a baseball guy. He was like the lead nerd that infiltrated baseball and just has ushered in this era of guys who never played at the big league levels, guys who talk more like Walmart CEOs or Coke CEOs than they do actual, athletes or people who know the game.
He's not Tony La Russa. let's make that abundantly clear.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do it because, it's a good day. I'm not making Tony La Russa jokes. But no, I think like one of the big problems, and honestly, like Paul and Kevin, if you go back to Paul when he was a GM, it's very much the same thing that we did with Kevin. It's not answers. It's nothing specific. It's an organizational thing. Like, I think he was a big part of this messaging that just did not resonate here in Cleveland.
I think it was a big part of it, but what's odd is that throughout times, I thought that he kind of disappeared the same way at times I've thought that Jimmy Haslam has disappeared into the background. He was not as apparent and obvious when it was John Dorsey that was here, for instance. Like, John Dorsey did what John Dorsey wanted, but it does feel like, just like Haslam's creeped back into a lot of these conversations in the past couple years, it does feel like DePodesta's creeped right back into a lot of the, not only the personnel decisions, but a lot of the draft decisions as well.
I think it's fair to ask, what does this mean for Kevin Stefanski, and what does this mean for Andrew
if you're
Berry?
Stefanski and Barry, you hear this news, do you think, awesome, we got rid of him? Or do you think to yourself, oh no, Haslam's firing everybody now? Haslam's cleaning house.
I think those are all fair, but I think we should just focus on this. I do think there have been too many cooks in the kitchen, and now you have one less. Like, whether it's a pound of flesh or not, like, you're not celebrating a guy, by the way, you're not celebrating a guy losing his job because he got another job, which is complicated, but a fine enough job. It's one of 30 teams in baseball that gets to run. So you're not necessarily celebrating somebody losing his job. You're celebrating one less cook in the kitchen and a guy who had no business. It would be like, I flipped burgers for Burger King, and now I'm going to be a sous chef. It's like, no, you had no business being in that room. And so as long as you don't replace him with another guy who worked at Burger King, all right, this feels like a step in the right direction. Now we can actually... Now everyone outside of Cleveland can stop running from and hiding behind everything that has happened. Oh, well, but Jimmy Haslam said in March. Yeah, that was March. We're in November now, right? Now we can have people outside of Cleveland having actual conversations about Kevin and Andrew. We can actually break down what has to go down, because this was the domino I didn't think would fall.
Well, yeah.
Ever. And the fact that it does, that is positive movement for Cleveland. And now you get to say, all right, let's re-examine the context of Kevin and Andrew and whether we trust them to be football guys instead of spreadsheet readers.
I feel like more of this gives you an advantage in trying to replace Stefanski and trying to replace Andrew Berry. It gives you the advantage there. Remember when they tried to hire Josh McDaniels and he wanted to clear house, get everybody out, and Haslam was like, no, we're not doing that. We're not just getting rid of everybody. This, if you want to go big game hunting now, and I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's a Saban type. I don't know. I have no idea who the big game hunting person is to you, but the person that would want complete control, they wanted a DePodesta gone and out, and now that guy is.
So that's a great point by you. If you're going to start looking for, and by the way, it didn't even have to be the biggest name. It doesn't have to be a Gruden. It doesn't have to be a Saban. It just has to be somebody who can come in and is going to be coveted around football. All right, and that by the way probably closely profiles as like a Joe Brady or something like that, the it guy of the moment. I think those guys, I think there's a reason why Kevin Stefanski was on your radar and not a lot of other teams' radars, because there weren't a lot of coaches. The best guys weren't willing to come into this context. Removing DePodesta, I think, would be a major hurdle if you're out there trying to sell coaches on this.
For sure.
That has been removed. Now, there are other things you've got to do, and I think, and maybe dialing back, I've said this, dialing back the analytics instead of 100% to 75%. Right? Instead of everything you do guided solely by that, make it more about football, supplemented by analytics. I think that's another way you can do it. And then Jimmy also has to promise, hey, I'm going to let you do your job.
Yeah, no, it's weird. The sense of like relief I almost have within this, while also recognizing and understanding that I still don't know what DePodesta was actually doing.
Collecting a check.
I just don't know. Yeah. So like from that perspective, I still have a hard time. But what I do believe is that I believe he was basically a henchman for Jimmy Haslam. And I believe he was, he had Haslam's ear in a way that other people haven't been able to. And so ridding yourself of that can only be a good thing, while also acknowledging we haven't for a long time really understood exactly what he does.
I think the reason why I still don't know about Barry and Stefanski is I didn't think this would happen. I thought Paul DePodesta was so in like flint that we just had no chance. And what I'm surprised about is how relieved I feel as a Browns fan that I don't have that guy meddling alongside a meddling owner with two guys who I think I respect as people and maybe still doubt as football guys.
I just like what it frees up for the future. That's my big takeaway. I like what it frees up for the future because nobody wanted to come to a job where you had Paul DePodesta hanging over everyone and you didn't really know what he did, but you knew that he had Haslam's ear. I just don't think that's good. But yes, the other big point is I think this does, if I'm Stefanski and Barry, I don't know that I love this development because when you start firing people like DePodesta, I would imagine you're not too far behind.
Yeah, what is, by the way, real quick, what is DePodesta's defining moment as like the Browns, the chief strategy officer? Is it
1-31 or is it Watson?
Oh, I was thinking, that's the defining. I was thinking about the good thing that he did. Because wouldn't it be helping you avoid Josh McDaniels as the head coach? Wasn't that
that was his, yes. The reason why Josh McDaniels didn't end up coming here is because he wanted to clean house completely, and that included DePodesta, and Haslam said no. But so you mean good thing, because the defining moments, I thought bad things instantly.
No, exactly. I mean, he got here in 2016. I can't remember if it was before the draft. So, does he get credit for Miles? Because he just
took the obvious choice.
You get credit for multiple trade downs, which gave John Dorsey 4 picks in the top 35 in 2018, all of which he aced.
So try explaining DePodesta to somebody 20 years from now, like a young 24-year-old that's getting their first shot on the fan and is hosting with you, and you're like, because I'm out sick that day, okay? And he's hosting with you, and you're like, yeah, but you weren't here for DePodesta. And they're like, well, all right, tell me about DePodesta.
It would be like Terry Pluto explaining Ted Stepien.
I'd be like, I don't know. At least with Stepien, at least you could look at and point to things. But with this, I'm like, I don't. At times he was very involved. At other times he was very absent. And other times I didn't really know what the hell he was doing.
I actually never bought that he was absent.
The majority of the time I never really knew what he was doing, though.
I think he was part tiebreaker. I think he was part synergy guy that makes sure all the departments are connecting. I think he had his hand in every pie. And although
some drafts he was sitting right next to Andrew Berry, other drafts he was just gone away where he wasn't shown on the television at all.
But I think he was still in it.
It's so odd.
I think honestly, if you want to give a benefit of the doubt of Andrew or Kevin, the benefit of the doubt is that guy was in everything. And that guy had as much power as anybody in the organization because he had the ownership's ear. And that is the ultimate. There's the one thing that I've said about them previously, about Andrew and Kevin, is I want football guys to do football jobs. I don't need a non-football guy like DePodesta. And by the way, just because Andrew and Kevin work in the NFL doesn't mean they're football guys either. You have to have, when I say football guys, you're talking about a foundational knowledge of how to build a team and how to lead a team. And I don't know we've got enough knowledge to say either guy is truly a football guy rather than just a football lifer that works in football and has some part of a cog in a machine, right? Are you steering the machine or are you just a part of the machine? I still don't know 6 years in. I can damn sure tell you Paul DePodesta was just a cog in the machine who unfortunately got to run the whole damn thing.
I know, but at times it felt like he was extremely involved, and at other times it felt like with John Dorsey he wasn't. John Dorsey, he just kind of got put to the back burner. But that coincides too with where Haslam's interests were at the time and how those moved on. It's just a very confusing role for a person that again has not spoken to the public media in Cleveland in 3 years.
I'm just relieved. I am. It feels like...
I know it's a good thing.
It feels
we know
like
that.
Change is possible, and change just doesn't mean more firing.
Well, it feels like Haslam's not as stubborn to whatever this whole big plan of his was.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think the reason DePodesta survived 10 years here, I honestly do think, and listen, they're going to paint this as he wanted to go back to baseball. They're going to paint this as a triumphant return for the prodigal son, Peter Brandt, Jonah Hill, all that crap. And it's all crap. Guys, he didn't take the Boston Red Sox job. The Colorado Rockies job is not a great one right now. They've had 2 straight GMs. They're at the bottom of the barrel. It's the Rockies, White Sox. There's like 3 jobs right now that are really hard to pull the nose up on.
Yeah, it's hard.
The Rockies is one of them.
They don't have a coach, and so he'll be able to hire the manager. They do spend
and tell him what to do.
Yeah, I mean, like it's still a premier. I'm shocked he got a premier baseball job. I know it's not a great baseball job, but there's only.
But what's a premier job? It's one of 30 jobs.
Yeah, operations of a professional baseball franchise. It's huge.
They gave Thad Levine president of baseball operations.
You're acting like it's like applying on LinkedIn and then you get hired 2 seconds later. I think that's a major job.
I think this is the entry level. I don't think this is a job that a guy with his resume should get. I'm sorry. I mean, like he should be above this job if he was any good at the job he had. Right?
I mean, you're a de facto GM. I'm not sure what more you want out of him.
I mean, he ran the entire Browns organization. He had his hands in everything.
And he failed at it.
Oh, no, he did. No.
But like in baseball, previously, the only thing he'd ever done was be the GM of the Dodgers before he did everything with Moneyball. And that lasted 20 months. That's not like he was like great at it.
You and I are in agreement. What I'm saying is, do not buy the BS spin that is going to happen that this is just Paul DePodesta going home.
Oh, no, I think he would have stayed with the Browns as long as Jimmy Haslam would have had him.
Yes.
Like sorry, you're welcome with the Browns. It ran out. That was the point here. He got legitimately fired in my estimation of this, and then he just, because this is the time of the year where baseball jobs are opening up, he was able to use his connections and get one. But like, yeah, no, I'm not selling that as him saying all of a sudden this golden opportunity arose and I had to take it. That I don't believe.